Welcome back to Veritas and Vision, where truth meets transformation and vision becomes reality. I'm your host, Rachel Kenney, and I'm super grateful that you guys are all here. A lot of people, so I have that sheet that people can ask me things they want to hear about or topics they want me to go over. And not even just throughout the sheet, but throughout Instagram, and people have messaged me. They really want to know about my journey and kind of where I come from sport wise or what led me to where I am today. Because I have talked about it. I have opened up a little bit in some of my posts about moving halfway across the country with $300 to my name and not knowing really anyone, and restarting my whole life after a 25 years of abuse. And I have kind of opened up about that. And I never opened up a lot because I knew that when one day I would have a podcast and one day I'd be able to share my story a lot more in depth. So here we are. Today, I wanted to talk about, my journey with sport and how it all connected to lead me where I am today. Obviously, you guys know from the past few episodes, I'm pretty passionate about integrating self-help work, shadow work, therapy, because I went through all of that. And I want you guys to know what my journey looked like to a degree to get me to where I am today. And one of the biggest common denominators of my journey was always sports. Sports was the thing that led me in every direction that I needed to go. And I am a firm believer that everything is connected and everything happens for a reason, and that we're all led on, everything's like a spider web, right? But there are things that lead you to this thing that then lead you to this thing, and this had to happen to lead you to this thing. It's all connected. And one of my main things that connected me to all of my different moves and different decisions in my life was always sports. And I have a pretty hefty sport background. So we're going to talk about it today a little bit. And I'm going to talk about, my journey within it all. So I did gymnastics, soccer. I bodybuilded for a little bit, but more so I could just say it was hypertrophy training. Because I never competed on a stage for bodybuilding and I never prepped or did any of that. And then I did CrossFit competitively, Olympic weightlifting, and now Jiu Jitsu, which Jiu Jitsu will be it for me. That would be my final sport. It is. I found it. This is it for me. So I was a gymnast from 5 years old to about 12, 13 years old, and I was good. I was so good. I have multiple, I have national titles. I have multiple state titles. Yeah, I was going to go far with it, but I was abused heavily as a child, and a lot of it was put towards my sport. And it was, by my father, and he wasn't supportive in the good way by any means. So as a young age, that kind of ruined that sport for me. And when my parents split, I had no desire to continue because I was crumbling, you know? So after that, I felt kind of lost. And as a 12-year-old child, you really don't know what the hell is happening in your life or your mind or anything. You're just kind of trying to survive and, God, I don't figure it out, right? Feel safe in some aspect. Once I got to high school, I started soccer. A lot of my friends were like, just play, just play. And I did. And I was decent, I'm very athletic. So I picked up pretty quick. And, I really liked the team aspect of the sport because gymnastics that you had your team, but it was still very individualized and very competitive, and a lot of pressure in that aspect. And I liked not having any pressure. I liked that if we went down together. And if we won together. And I really liked that camaraderie, teammate aspect of things. I loved it. So I did soccer. And then I actually went to college for soccer too, into a 2-year school. So I played there, and that was also a pretty fun time, but very chaotic. And then after soccer, I really didn't want to do anything because I was like, wow, I was 19, 20 years old. And I was like, I've been pretty active my whole life, constantly dedicating so much time to sports. And it was good for me because sport helped me chase my demons. I should have obviously been actually working through things, but as a child, sports saved my life, I think. And the people saved my life. It kept me I mean, I got into trouble, but it kept me out of most deep trouble. It helped me stay fit. It helped me, express myself. It helped me get energy out of my system, that I was holding in. It gave me purpose. It gave me purpose in a dark world of my life where I felt like there wasn't, I didn't have much purpose. That was my purpose. That was what kept me going, was sports. But then I stopped because I was like, I'm so sick of being so active all the time. And I stopped. And then I gained like 30 pounds super quick because I was drinking a lot with my friends and partying and doing all the shit that, a lot of college kids do. And then I used drinking to, help purge my demons and my depression and my anxiety. And then I gained like 30 pounds. And I was always, oh my God, like I was like 105 pounds. I was 105 pounds. And then I went up to like, I want to say like 140-ish area, not muscular. Like I'm 140 now, but I have a lot of muscle, right? Not muscle, wasn't good. And then I like stopped fitting in my jeans. And I remember one day I was like, holy shit, what the hell? I can't do this. Like, being fit and active your whole life. Like I was like, no, 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 no. So I got with my cousin. My cousin was a professional bodybuilder at the time. And I was like, can you like teach me how to lift weights and like eat right? I had no idea. Like in soccer, we were like pounding pots. Like I could eat whatever I wanted. I was running like 10, 15 miles a day. And like just, yeah, burning a hell of a lot of calories. So he took me under his wing. He taught me how to weight lift. He got me and I started following programs and I was like, oh, I love this. And then I was putting on muscle crazy quick. And obviously a lot of that is genetics and a lot of it is my background in sport, right? So I was putting on muscle. I was like, wow, I'm really strong. All this stuff, learned how to eat, started getting fit, loved it, and then found CrossFit. And when I walked into CrossFit at the first day, the coach there was like, do you know like what a handstand is? And I was like, a handstand? Of course I know what a handstand is. Like I was a gymnast my whole life or a big portion of my life. And he was like, yeah, like you walk on hands and stuff here. We have handstand push-ups. And I was like day one doing handstand push-ups, walking on my hand. I was able to do a bar muscle up. Like I was able to do everything. And I was like, I'm hooked. Like it was like I got a sense of my childhood back in gymnastics and then I could make my own, future with that. So I was hooked. And then like that was it. I was doing like immediately off the get-go, started to compete, doing 2-a-days. I was super strong because of my lifting background. So I was already cleaning. I think at my first day cleaning, I cleaned like 150 pounds, which is crazy for your first time. And I was like good. Like I was just picking up on everything really quick. But the cardio aspect of things was not that easy for me. So the gymnastics was good, the lifting was really good for me, the cardio not so much. So it was really hard for me to like build my base. And I was very, very addicted to it. And I really depended on it to make me feel good. Because at that point in my life, I was like 22, 23, 24, and I was going through it. I was going through it. It was like everything, because at that point in your life, you start to develop the aspect of like, well, I really understand, like you're getting triggered, things are happening, you're acting certain ways, you're literally chaotic. You don't know how to handle your emotions. You don't understand where they're coming from. You don't know why this is upsetting you. You don't know why you feel so depressed. And it all came from, obviously, my childhood, my abusive childhood. Um, and this didn't stop, right? Like I dealt with all of this shit. I dealt with different forms of abuse. I dealt with a lot of abuse still up to this point in time. So this was like I still don't know what to really do with myself. So dove in. So I was doing like doubles, triples some days. I was working constant. I was working. I don't even know. I look back and I was like, how the hell did I survive? With CrossFit, I then met someone who I dated who also became very abusive. And it was like I couldn't, it all led me. Like I look back and I'm like, wow, like this all happened for a reason. This all happened for me to be who I am right now, sitting in this chair and talking to you. Right. But it all happened for a reason. And this relationship almost killed me. And I I was away from home. I was like 90 minutes away from home. I felt stuck. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go back home. I didn't want to admit that I was in this cycle of abuse again. I didn't understand why I was always finding people or getting involved with people who wanted to abuse me. And I was just like, and then like, at that point you're like, is it me? Like, am I the problem? Like, there's just, and they make you feel like, narcissists and manipulators and abusive people make you feel like you're the problem all the time. That's what they do. And I had two very good friends who helped me get out. And the day that I left was traumatizing because, the guy found out, freaked out, almost killed me. I know that's kind of morbid. It was bad. Like the cops got called and luckily I survived it. And I remember the cops were talking to me and they're like, "What do you like?" He wasn't in the house. They got him, told him, they had him leave. And, they asked me what I wanted. And I was like, I just want my mom and my best friend to come here. And I just want to pack 3 cars as much as I can. I just want to leave. I just want to leave. And they were like, okay. Like, and then like, they told me I can follow up and do whatever. So they let me do that. Um, and they came, I packed my shit, had my cats, and I left. And I had to quit my job. Obviously, I had $10 to my name, and I drove home. And I moved back in with my mom. And at this point, I was 26 years old, and I was like, I, I don't know what to do. But I knew I was still in CrossFit. Obviously, I was still competitive, and that was my lifeline. That was my lifeline. And I got an internship at a gym in Wisconsin. I'm in Pennsylvania. I don't know if I said that at the beginning, but I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. And I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I don't really know anyone, but I need to go. I need to go. I'm gonna die here, or I'm gonna amount to nothing here, and nothing good happens to me here. And nothing good happened to me there because I was meant to leave. I was meant to leave. And I know that now. I know that. I look back and I was like, it was just the God was just being like, you need to go. Like, you need to go. I'm going to, like, everything, all of these things you need to go. So I left. I literally worked. I got a job. My best friend got me a job at Buffalo Wild Wings, and I was a waitress, and I worked my ass off for 2 months, and I saved as much as I possibly could. I saved $1,000 for my U-Haul, and I had an extra like $200 to $300 to my name. Packed my U-Haul, fucking left. Did not know. I was so scared. I was shit scared. I left everything behind. Any family I had, left. Any friends I had, left. I had to go. And I knew basically nobody. I knew a few people at this gym. And I went and restarted my life. And it was the best thing I ever did for myself. And it was all because I found CrossFit. It was all because I was dedicated into CrossFit. This all led me here. And I wanted to be more. I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to help people. This was how I felt like I should be, you know? I did coach gymnastics for a while back in the day. So like I knew I had a love and I had a very good niche for helping people and coaching. So this is why I went in this direction. And I wanted my life to revolve around CrossFit because it was so important to me at the time. It was so important. I wanted to make the CrossFit Games. I wanted to do this for myself. I wanted to have purpose. I didn't want any of this to be for nothing. It's always what I kept telling myself. This cannot be for nothing. I just have to keep moving forward. I just have to keep moving forward. Even though I was breaking and struggling, I had to move forward. So I moved. I worked as a waitress at Buffalo Wild Wings because I was able to transfer. So I transferred there and I had my internship. I worked both and I was training at the same time. And then once I moved, literally everything came crashing down on me. Everything caught up to me. Everything I pushed because I was drinking, because I was playing sports, because I was depending on sports, because I was depending on drugs, because I was depending on these things to help me from all the things I was going through. Everything came crashing down. And it was the darkest point of my life. The darkest point of my life. And I was like, well, I can either sit here. I made it this far. I'm here. I made it this far. I moved halfway across the country. Is this it? Is this it? Am I going to let this be it? Fuck no. It's not who I am. So I went to therapy. And that was the hardest thing I ever did. and the best thing I ever did because now I'm me and now I'm here. CrossFit led me to Olympic weightlifting. I had a coach. That coach was in Minnesota. I moved again for sport to Minnesota because I wanted to train under a coach in person. And I was like, yeah, I can be great at Olympic weightlifting. And then I moved. And then yet again, I felt very unfulfilled and not happy. And I was like, and there was a lot with CrossFit and a lot. And again, it comes back to that point of like resentment. Same thing. It was like cycles repeat until you understand. And I abused myself with CrossFit. And then as I healed and kept healing, I resented it because I utilized it so much and abused it so much. And it was not in a healthy way. And then I was like, I don't need that anymore. I don't want this anymore. I don't even know if I like this sport. Do I really like this sport? I didn't like that sport. It wasn't for me. So then, and same with Olympic weightlifting, it was the same thing. And then I did a lot of self-reflection. I was deep into therapy. At this point, I was 30 years old. So I'm like 4 years into therapy. I'm about to be 31, almost 5 years into therapy. And I was like, I'm going to quit and I'm going to fight people. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to fight people. I've always been like interested. I loved UFC. I loved MMA. I loved Jiu Jitsu. I loved watching it. I grew up around wrestling. My brothers, my cousin, they were all wrestlers. And I was like, I want to do it. Screw it. Now's the time. And I switched. And that linked me to everything I am now. And I'm so happy. Like I don't know. I don't think I've ever been this happy in a sport in my life. I obviously love to win. I hate to lose. But when I lose, it's not devastating. I'm like, okay, I learned from that. I don't have much pressure on myself. I do it because I love it. And I've never been that way about a sport. And that could be growth. That could be therapy. That could be a lot of different things. Could be contentment. But it's probably genuinely because I just love this fucking sport. I love what it does for me, and I'm constantly evolving in it. And then that led me to my other move and another point in my life where I was like, I'm going to 100%. Switching to jujitsu allowed me to see how many other areas of my life that I truly was miserable in, and how many areas of my life I was lying to myself and holding on to something that was no longer meant to be a part of my story. Being in jujitsu and feeling what it made me feel like myself, made me realize what really wasn't for me. So I made another move 2.5 hours away to another part of Minnesota to train full time at M Theory. And I did it to be by myself and to show myself that I can support myself and give myself what I want on my own, because I've never really been able to do that. Or I never knew, at that point in time, I knew who I was. And it took me, I'm now 33. It took me a long time to find that. But there's people who go their whole lives without ever really knowing who they truly are because of depending on sports or depending on hobbies or depending on relationships or depending on people or depending on their job, whatever. And they don't know who they are. So like, that's my journey of sport. But the sport connected me in all areas of my life to lead me to this spot right now, doing this podcast and knowing exactly who the hell I am and knowing exactly where I want to go and knowing exactly what I'm capable of accomplishing. It all led me here. The trauma, the abuse, the neglect, the bullshit, the loneliness, the psychological warfare I had to work through, the constant stress, the constant fear, it all led me here because I didn't stop moving and I didn't stop listening to the signs. And I didn't stop still being who I knew I was always supposed to be active, and I just kept trying things. When I felt miserable, I shifted. When I felt the pull to leave, I left. When I felt the pull to take that risk, I did it. And you don't have to do that in terms of sport. You don't have to do that in terms of journey, but this is my example to tell you guys that sport is such a big piece of my life. I have such a large athletic background, but sport, it was my link to transformation. So, what is your link to transformation? And what are you denying yourself? And what are you lying to yourself about in your life? What people don't realize is we're not responsible for the things that have happened to us, but we are responsible for how we move forward from those things that have happened to us. And throughout everything, my main goal is that I can impact and change the lives of others, and that I can show them that life doesn't have to make you hard. Life doesn't have to make you miserable, and that you could lead with love and be someone who can show people that they can achieve more in their life, regardless of what you've been through. We have a choice. We always have a choice. So I love these podcasts because I just feel like I get to ramble, and I don't get to say these things. I don't just in a post or text message or whatever. And there are so many people who don't know any of this about me. So many people. Let me rephrase that. There's very few people who know this actual story and journey about me. And I guess a lot of you are going to know now for everyone who watches this. But I want to share. I'm at such a good place in my life that I can share the things that I went through, because I want you to see that everything leads you into the direction in which you're supposed to go in, the good and the bad, the yin and the yang, the shadow and the light. Like everything serves its purpose. But you have to listen to the signs, and you have to shift when you need to shift, and you have to listen to yourself. You have to be one with yourself. You have to know yourself. And this goes back to episode 1 and 2. You have to do the hard work. You have to heal in order to be able to become this version of yourself and be able to like listen to these signs. And you have to do the scary things in life. You have to do the scary things in life. And now I get to continue my pursuit of being a competitive jiu-jitsu athlete. I won worlds a year and a half into jiu-jitsu. I'm 2.5 years into jiu-jitsu, and I'm a 4-stripe blue belt, and I have 2 world medals and tons of accomplishments already. And none of that, it matters to me, but it's all because I'm doing it because I love the sport, and I love myself, and I love life, regardless of how shitty it may be sometimes. I love what it teaches us. Anyways, I hope you took something from this, and I hope you enjoyed getting to know me a little more and a little more of my past. And I hope you like these, and I hope you stick around, and I hope you share these, and I hope you tell more people to follow along. So subscribe, like this if you did. I'm so bad at saying it. People are like, you need to say subscribe at the end of your videos. And I was like, I always forget about that. I'm just doing this to chat and change lives, and maybe change my own a little bit while I do it as well. So let me know what you think. I'm excited for next week's too. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you here next week.